Hi, Mark. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can, Todd.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello, Madam Mayor.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. You?
Pretty good, thanks.
Welcome.
Thank you. So this is, I'm just ex officio, so I'll just be here to lend support if anybody needs anything, but otherwise I'll be kind of quiet tonight, which is unusual for me, right? Hi, Mr. Berry, how are you?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I see Mr. Morrison almost every morning now, bright and early when I'm leaving for work.
Spying on me.
Yeah, actually, you go right past my house. I was like, what is he doing?
Making the rounds.
Right. Checking out all the geese on the golf course.
Dog walkers, cross-country skiers.
There have been quite a few of the cross-country skiers, yes.
Yeah, they're into it this year. I haven't seen too many in the recent snowy years that we've had.
Right. It's kind of nice. Oh,
As long as they know not to cross-country ski over the greens, we'll be good.
right. I don't know if they know where the greens are.
Oops.
Intention to shoot. Nelson tried to save the ball, but got off balance and stepped out of bounds.
Yeah, unfortunately, the ball was going north of Seton Hall.
Josh, you have to be sure of that.
Good evening.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Tom, how's your back?
Back?
Yeah, from
You,
all
you
that
didn't see
shoveling.
you didn't see my power shovel?
Well,
Come on, I have a power shovel.
okay.
Yeah. Come on, the latest in devices. Yeah. Oh gosh. All right, let me see if I could find
Oops.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi there, Dom. How are you?
Good. Nice job
Good.
on the letter.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry it was so late getting it out.
Oh, look good.
Good.
Mr. Barry, excuse me, you've got 4
Yeah.
people in as attendees.
Thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
I was watching, I was seeing participants, but I wasn't seeing everybody. Okay. What's a panelist? Oops. Promote to panelists. Promote to panelists. All right. So Dom, it looks like we have a quorum for the Parks and Rec Commission. I would like
Okay.
to make a suggestion that once the meeting is officially started, that we move the schedule around a little bit and move the Golf Advisory Board up to the top so that we can get through that part of the business and then move on to our regular meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Now, I noticed other people are here, but I don't think they have their, they're all on mute, at least what I see.
Yeah, I think I did not do that. I did not mute everybody, so that's a personal choice at this point.
It automatically puts us on mute when there's a big meeting. We can unmute if we need to, though. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We
Yes.
do.
Loud and clear.
Hi, Fran.
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see your face if you can put your face on.
Not tonight.
We only see each other masked.
This is true.
So Mark, we ready to get underway?
I think we are. Yes.
I'm looking for the agenda, actually.
Okay.
And I know you sent it.
Yes. And I know you can read it now.
That's right.
I've changed the setting on the computer.
Okay. So Mark, for time's sake, why don't we get underway? And
Yes, it's.
you have the agenda. I'm still looking through all my files here for it.
Okay.
So why don't we make a motion to begin our meeting?
Okay, and it is 7:04 by my watch.
Okay.
And so it looks like everybody from the commission is here. And Cindy and Margaret are here from the Golf Advisory Board. So if we go down, if we go down to unfinished business, we have Shinnecock rules and regulations and rates. And like I said, I think we ought to move that up
Sure.
to
Yep.
the top of the agenda. If that's okay with the commission.
That's fine with me.
Okay with me.
Okay. So Margaret, do you want to kind of summarize the discussion of the Golf Advisory Board? And I have shared the rates with the commission. So they are aware of what was proposed, but I'm not sure that they know the entire backstory. So I guess at this point we could turn it over to you to kind of highlight the discussion and explain how the Golf Advisory Board came to this decision.
So, good evening. Would you like me to turn my video on or no? I can stay.
Doesn't matter,
Okay.
to me anyway.
Okay. So good evening also. Every year, as you know, we have a discussion that takes a look at the current environment in the golf world, both at Shinnecock as well as locally in the region. And we use that information along with a couple of other parameters that are provided by Todd to take a look and see what would be the best action to take with respect to the rates in any given year. So for example, in a year where we know that there's an economic downturn, or there's like what happened back in 2008, 2007, it may not make sense when you're having this discussion. It may not make sense to raise rates because there's a good chance that a lot of golfers are not going to be able to participate anyway, and you don't want to put any additional barriers in front of them. So we take all of that information, again, most of it provided by the PGA professional, Todd Goodhue, and we get a chance to look at what we've got. So the other thing that we look at is what we've done historically in the past recent history, so 5 to 10 years, even last year. And with that, make a proposal for what we believe, well, we also take into account proposed budgets and whatnot, but make a proposal for what we believe the rates should be. Over the last couple of years, we have alternated between raising the daily fees and targeting the season pass rates, and raising the daily fees and targeting the season pass rates. And I think the Golf Advisory Board at this point feels very comfortable that the daily fees that are laid out are in a good place relative to the other golf courses in the region. And so that left us with looking at the season pass rates. And a couple of years ago, we actually reduced the season pass rates by approximately 10% in a number of categories. We have also introduced two, as you know from last year, two additional season pass levels, the Associate and the Associate Plus, to allow younger golfers to kind of step their way into a full season pass membership. And so looking at that, looking at the fact that we believe we're now at a point where we're lower than the competition, we have a product that is outstanding at the moment. If we don't, kudos to Eric and Todd and the members of the Golf Advisory Board, that we really, I think, have a very strong product. And so the demand is there. And so we felt that, kind of given where we are, that a 3% increase would be warranted for some of the season pass holders. So the ones that we've targeted are the full adult single season pass holders, as well as the Associate and the Associate Plus. For, and some will ask, why raise the rates on an Associate and an Associate Plus? A couple of reasons. One is, even raising the rate 3%, that amounts to $30 a year. Most of these golfers, probably knowing most of them, can manage that. The benefits that they get by being an Associate or Associate Plus member at Shinnecock are, I think, better than anywhere else if they were to go. And so we felt that raising those rates by 3%, or in the end, actual dollars about 30, would not be an issue. We also felt that raising the rates on the adult rates would also be warranted at this point. It's been a while. We're, like I said, we're way below market. And I think, just to ensure that the budget is, that we're increasing revenue beyond just having additional players play, that it's a good time to do it. I don't know, Mark, if that's my summary.
Yeah, that was excellent, Margaret.
So any questions or thoughts?
So the only question I have is, you do have a great product, but I wonder if it's COVID has something to do with all of the golf courses in the area increasing their volume.
Oh, absolutely, it does.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that there's a COVID bounce happening. There's also no doubt that we got very lucky last year and maybe even the year before with perfect weather throughout the winter, spring, summer, and fall. And so there were plenty of opportunities for people to play. I think Todd will tell you that this time last year, he was selling out the course every weekend. I think this year a little bit different, unfortunately, at this point, which is kind of part of the story, but making sure we have that contingency and can manage it. But the year before that, we did not have such a lucky year. And so just, this is kind of ebbs and flows, and being able to kind of to make sure that we don't get caught out with a real ebb is important.
Thank you.
Can I ask, I'm just curious, I'm not too familiar with the terms of associate and associate plus. What's the difference between adult, associate, and associate plus, just for my clarification?
Oh, of course. So an adult is somebody who's, you're gonna love this, somebody who's 36 years old or older. Sorry about that. The associate are folks who are 21 to, Todd, is it 30, 29, 30, somewhere in there. Associate plus
30, yep, 30.
30 to 35 or 31 to 35. And then adults are 36 and older.
And Fran, the reason that we did that is the National Golf Foundation did a study, and they looked at some of the barriers to participation across different age groups. And one of the barriers was the pricing to get into golf. And so we created this associate and associate plus category. And I think 2 years ago, we had 7 members in the range from 22 to 35. And since we've introduced the associate and the associate plus, that has now grown to 37 members. So it's had a real positive impact on participation at the golf course. And what we're trying to do is set ourselves up so that these, if they start playing at Shinnecossett when they're 22, 23, 24 years old, that if they stay in the area, they'll become lifetime golfers at Shinnecossett.
And
So
bring their
it's-
kids.
And bring their kids, right? So there was kind of a short-term strategy and a long-term strategy to us doing that.
Great. Would you mind saying again, what are the ages for associate and associate plus, just so I have it in the notes?
Absolutely. So associates are age 21 to 30.
Okay,
And associate plus 31 to 35.
thank you.
I just have one question, and that's, are you retaining the rolling season for memberships?
Yes.
Yes. Great. I think that's probably a big seller
Correct.
too.
Yes, definitely.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, folks.
Don, we've actually got one other thing to do.
Okay.
Normally, at this same meeting, we would go over the rules and regulations, which I believe was in the packet. The Golf Advisory Board has already reviewed them. There was one change, and that was the order of the holidays. We had President's Day before Martin Luther King Day, so we've switched that. Otherwise, the Golf Advisory Board was approved the proposed changes to the golf course rules and regulations. So I don't know if there's any questions from the commission, either to the Golf Advisory Board about the changes, proposed changes in the rules and regulations.
I have a couple of questions. This is a good time for it. On page 1 of the regulations under organized leagues, would you want to change the word ladies group to women's group, since the league is the Women's Golf Association? Semantics, I know.
No, but a very good one. We've been working to get ladies out of where we need to.
And I had 2 other questions. 1, 2, 3. On page 4, item L, about discounted resident rate. Did you want to list an example of what an acceptable proof of residency is?
Most normally, that would be a letter, proof of residence, some addressed letter.
Oh, I see, okay. Or like a utility bill?
Something like that.
Yeah. Might not be a bad idea to put in those examples. Because you could have someone like me coming along wondering what you wanted.
Okay.
Sure.
And this is just a question on item M. Do you permit service animals on the course?
Service animals, what are you thinking about
Well,
that?
some people who have, for instance, seizure disorders do have a service animal who will alert them to an oncoming seizure. And I could see somebody playing golf who might need to have that animal with them.
I can tell you that we have never had that situation arise, but from a personal standpoint, and if my staff asked me, then certainly that would be something that we would allow.
Then again, I would suggest that you add it so that when and if the situation were to arise, you wouldn't be fumbling around and risk being charged with an ADA violation.
Right. Normally, I would think that someone who has that need would, when they call to make a booking, they would express that question.
I
And
hope so.
We would say yes, but sure, we can put that in there. I'm for that.
Good. Thank you. That's all I had.
All
Any
right.
other questions? Well, thank you, folks, and good job with all of this that you've done.
You're welcome.
Do we
No,
need a
thank you.
motion to approve this, Mark?
Yeah, so yes. So what will happen is we'll put a referral into the council. And it typically includes a recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Commission on what the proposed rates, and that they've adopted, or they're recommending some proposed rates, and they have approved the changes to the rules and regulations.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the rates for the 2022 golf season.
I'll second that.
Okay, so moved. And I'd also like to make a motion to approve the rules and regulations that have been changed for the upcoming 2022 golf season.
I second the
Is that,
motion.
is that with Elizabeth's recommended changes?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I second the motion.
So moved. And once again, thank you very much, folks. And thank you for your hard work.
Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice
Thank you.
evening.
Have a good night.
Night, everyone.
Good night.
Have a
Bye,
good night.
Fran.
Bye, Cindy. Oh, I miss Cindy Lathrop. Okay.
All right.
All right, Mark, where to?
Have you
Secretary?
been able to pull up the agenda?
I do.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
great. So I think we'd be on to approval of meeting minutes. And we have 4 sets of minutes to approve,
Okay.
beginning with November 18th of 2020.
All right. Okay. Okay, I'm on the wrong one here. Sorry. I'm looking at January 29th. Sorry. That was crazy.
Mark, did you send all the minutes with the joint meeting email?
I sent all of the minutes with the Parks and Rec Commission notice.
Let me look at a different email then.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so-
The email address on the Parks and Recreation Commission is your work email because for some reason we have issues with your home email.
So it's funny because I didn't get it for work. I didn't get it emailed to work. Everything came to my personal email. I just forwarded it to myself for this meeting.
Oh, well, that's
That-
interesting.
I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
Before she would just send it to both. And
Okay,
So,
all right, I'll check on that to find out why. You want it to go to both?
yeah, you can send it to both. That's fine.
Okay. Okay.
But it was a separate email that had the minutes in it.
Yeah, there was a whole slew of attachments. There
Right.
was the rate history over the last 10 years, the comparison to local golf courses. There was 4 sets of minutes. There was the December, no, we're into February. The January monthly report. There was like 11 attachments.
I found it.
Okay,
and we're beginning with November 18th.
yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, November 18th.
I can second the
So
motion.
moved. Let's move to the next one. And that would be
The next one was December.
December 9th.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for Wednesday, December 9th.
I'll be happy to second that
So
too,
moved.
Dom.
Moving right along. All right, let's get to the next one.
That's January 13th.
I'd like to make a motion to,
I found there was just one typo on page 4 under the Pratt Recreation Building. 1, 2, 3, 4th line down. Instead of come council members, it should be some with an S.
Okay. Thank you.
That was all I saw.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes with the changes of the, what is that? Of the January 13th meeting.
I'll second that.
Great, thank you. Moving along. We sent a lot of minutes. Okay, January 23rd. I'd like to make a motion. Oh, this is the our special meeting. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the Saturday, January 23rd meeting.
I'll second that.
So moved. All right, next one. January. Looks like that's it, huh, Mark? Oh,
It is.
no. I
Yeah,
think
Fran
that-
was busy.
I'll say.
All right.
Still am.
Okay.
By the way, I just assumed that since I took the minutes, it's kind of obvious that I kind of approved them. That's why I'm not like seconding or
I
anything.
figured that out.
And if there's only
Yes.
one typo you catch, I consider that a great day.
And it was probably from me and not from Fran, so.
I hope Mark's probably catching a ton of them before they make it to this, so who knows?
I am. If I had a nickel for every, no.
Whoa, be careful.
All right. So we did all that, and any citizens petitions and or comments?
So nobody got an email from, what was her name? Elena Smith that lives over near Bel Air Park?
No.
Nobody. Okay. So I received an email from an Elena Smith, who she lives near Bel Air Park Playground on Bel Air Drive, and she's fed up with dogs in the park and dog owners not picking up after the dogs, and wanted to, and I guess I'm surprised that she didn't reach out, because I replied right back to her and said that I thought the first step for her would be to contact somebody from the Parks and Rec Commission to discuss what she was proposing. I gave everybody's name and email address, and apparently she didn't follow through with that. But
Can you give me the spelling on Elena?
yeah, it's Elena. Maybe that's a lot. Yeah, Alana. Elena. So she was actually asking for two things. She wanted there'd be no dogs had to be on a leash in the park, and that there would be some type of a fine for not picking up after your dog. Currently, there is no leash law in Groton. The state leash law reads, there is actually no, okay, so roaming dogs. The general statutes do not mandate that dogs be on leashes at all time, but a dog's owner or keeper must not allow it to roam on another person's land or on a public highway, including sidewalks, if it is not under his control. And then it states local governments may create leash law ordinances. Violating the state roaming law is an infraction punishable. So, and then the other thing that she was asking for, like I said, was some type of an ordinance concerning the removal or picking up after your dog. And that is not something that the town of Groton has at this point either. So I'm not really sure what the commission would like to do with this. If we want to respond to her suggestion, or how we want to deal with this. I sense that this could be fairly controversial. I won't disagree with her that there are a lot of irresponsible dog owners. Our park staff sees it all the time. We go as far as to provide mutt mitt dispensers with the little plastic bags, and people will pick up after the dog and then leave the bag right there. Or they will throw the bag into the woods. We've seen them strewed all in the woods too. So it's certainly a point of frustration. They'd actually be better off not bagging it, because it's going to break down quicker than it is in a plastic bag. And we provide trash barrels for people to drop the bags in. We don't do this at every single park. We do it at some of the more heavily used parks. We get to know where there's a lot of dogs. We do not have a dispenser at Bel Air Park, so that's an option. We could put one in there along with a barrel. How effective that's going to be, I don't really know. It may encourage some people to pick up after their dogs, and it may not. And the other thing we find is it's amazing how quickly we go through bags. I think people go up to the dispenser, they'll grab a dozen bags and bring them back to the house, to use around the house to pick up after their dog there. So,
Mark, is there a sign that says pick up after your dog at that park?
no.
In the same
I
vein,
don't-
is there one about leashing? Sorry, I was gonna ask about signs.
Yeah, I think the only place that we have signs encouraging people to keep their dog on a leash is actually at the Cop property, which is where the dog park is. Otherwise, I mean, we could be putting signs up for everything. And, we could certainly try that. But I don't know how effective that would be. And perhaps that would, if we put up signs, that may encourage Mrs. Smith to follow up and speak to somebody on the commission. Because this would come from the commission and then go to the council, and then there's a whole process of developing an ordinance. I did, one of the things that you have to consider is if we make picking up after your dog, come up with a fine system, are the police really going to, is that the best use of their time to be enforcing, chasing around people that aren't picking up after their dog? I'm not so sure that is.
Well,
But
that's what I was going to say, Mark, is I don't feel recommending an ordinance to the town council is appropriate at this point, because there will be no enforcement. Why take the time and effort to create two ordinances, one about picking up your dog waste and two, keeping your dog on a leash, when there are plenty of state parks and other places that have well-posted signage that says dogs must be leashed at all times, pick up after your pets, and they're still bad actors. And I mean, we don't enforce litter laws. There are a whole host of ordinances that go unenforced. So
Right.
I don't know that it would be a good use of time and resources to implement ordinances for these.
Well, I agree with you, Angela, but I would think that it would be good to start with a trash barrel for starters and a sign for dog owners to pick up after their pets. I'm not in favor of a fine or anything like that, but I am in favor of doing both those things. And it shows, Elena, that we're responding to her her complaints.
I would also add in a dispenser. I hear what you're saying, Mark, about there being overused or not used appropriately, but still for the person who's arrived at the park without a bag,
Yep,
who ordinarily would take care of it, it'd be
Sure.
good to have it there for them.
okay. So
And-
I can let her know that we're going to put up a dispenser, we're going to put in a barrel, and we're also going to post signs that dogs should be kept on their leash and that they need to pick up after their dogs. So I'll let her know that we're going to take those initial steps and monitor and ask that, you know, she kind of monitor the situation. And park staff certainly would be doing that on a weekly basis because they're out there mowing during a good part of the season. And, you know, we can kind of keep track of it from there and then go forward from there at some point, if need be.
Sounds good.
Okay.
About town council referrals?
There was none.
Okay, correspondence, communication to commissioners. I have one. I had a fellow by the name of Ed Halloran, who I believe lives in Noank. Spoke with me actually today about, is it possible, and I think he might have either contacted the rec department about putting a pickleball court on the Noank basketball court. And frankly, I don't even know where the Noank basketball court is. But he spoke about, you know, would that be possible?
Sure. So the Noank
So-
basketball court is right next to the Noank fire
Yeah.
station. And it's actually managed,
Okay,
that park is actually managed by the fire district. So he should reach out to the fire
he
district.
told me he's reached out to the fire district and they've told him that he should talk to the rec department. And he did tell me, he said, watch, he said, when you bring it up, they're gonna tell you to refer it to the fire district. So it's interesting what he said is actually what's happening.
Yeah. So, you know, the
So
fire district,
is that something that you could call the fire district? Is there a head guy at the fire district?
yeah, I guess I can let them know that the property next to theirs belongs to them and it's not mine. I mean, they called me a couple of years ago to say, hey, Mark, who did you use to resurface your courts? And I told them who it was and they thanked me and went on their way. So,
Okay,
yeah,
I see.
so
If I see him again, I'll tell him to look them up.
yeah, whoever he spoke to was misinformed
Okay,
that, you know, he should talk to, you know, he should talk to us because we have nothing to do with that, currently have nothing to do with that, with that park.
okay, thank you. I will let him
Yeah.
know.
But where did you want to put it?
That was
Next to
easy.
the basketball court?
Next to the fire station.
Next to the fire
In
station?
Noank, just as you just go over the bridge, the fire station's right there. And
Mhm.
just to the right of the fire station, I think there's a basketball court and a tennis court and a small playground and a little bit of green space. It's a corner lot right next to the little variety store. I can't think of the name of the
Parsons,
store.
yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's right in that corner.
Okay, I just wanted to have the location for the notes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other correspondence to commissioners?
People just want to know if we know what's going on with the rec programs in the buildings for the spring, if that's slated to be virtual right now or how that's planned right now.
The current winter session that we're in, it's all virtual. I did have a discussion with the town manager yesterday. You know, our programmers always are having to think 3, 4, 5, 6 months ahead. We've actually already started planning for hiring our summer camp staff. So, that question, the programmers asked that question to me, and I spoke with the town manager, and I said, what is going to be the milestone that's going to trigger us to going back to indoor in-person programming? And he replied that right now he felt that when the town transitioned from red status, there's a grid of yellow, orange, and red, and it's based on the number of cases per 100,000 per day. You're in the red designation if it's greater than, I believe it's 15 new
Yes.
cases per 100,000. Over the last 2 weeks, Groton is at 34.5. But I believe we've been slowly dropping. And to get to the yellow designation, it's less, I'm sorry, to orange, it's less than 15. And I think to yellow, it's less than 5. Now, he did not say that, he didn't indicate that it would be like the first week that we drop below the red designation. Based on decisions that he's made over the last 8 to 9 months, I would say he is pretty conservative, and I wouldn't be surprised if it took a good month of being out of the red before the decision was made to allow in-person programming inside. So, Fran, I don't have any idea. It's difficult to say how long this is going to last. And right now, that's the only milestone that we're working with. As we get closer, it could change. But right now, I know for summer camp, we're planning on operating summer camp the same way we did last year. So very low numbers, groups staying the same all day long, not intermingling with other groups. We just don't know. I know we will be, as soon as the weather is suitable, we will be offering outside programs. I know the senior center, back in the fall, they were doing programs out at the rink. And I believe that we'll be trying to do some outdoor programming tied into what's taking place over at the community center, Tai Chi or something like that. But, and I still believe that, if we come to that transition period and we're partway through an 8-week program cycle, that we would continue to offer virtual and in-person for those that felt comfortable doing that. And I think we would let folks know as they were signing up, and it looked like we might be headed towards being able to do in-person, that we would let them know that there is a possibility we'll transition to in-person, but we'll continue with the virtual option. Because not everybody's comfort level is a little bit different.
Okay.
That's a long-winded answer to, I don't know.
Okay, reports. You're on again, Mark.
Okay. So Don, you asked me to update, or I guess the question came up about Flanders Road. Oh, it's actually on the agenda, so I think I'll skip that for right now. Golf course, we had a good January. I think we were ahead of last January, and February is not looking so good right now. I think last year we did about 30,000 in February last year, and we have not opened for a single day yet. And with the upcoming weather, it looks like we're not going to be opening anytime soon, unfortunately. Trails Coordinating Task Force, there is no report because we haven't met since December. Athletic fields, the Athletic Fields Task Force is actually making a presentation to the RTM tonight. They made a presentation to the council 2 weeks ago. And the council has asked them to continue doing work. One of the directives was that they come back with information about synthetic fields. I believe the same night that the Athletic Fields Task Force made their presentation, the Groton community advocates spoke about their concerns about synthetic turf fields. And so the council has asked the Athletic Fields Task Force to do some more research and come back with more information about synthetic turf fields. Pratt Recreation Building. So last Tuesday night, the council approved money for an additional study, $13,500 to do a statistically valid survey in the community to try to get an answer to the question, do people want the theater to remain as a theater, or do they want it to be converted into multi-use space that will allow recreation to do various programming? So we have a kickoff meeting with the consulting group that's doing that. We actually went with a different consulting group this time, Great Blue. They're out of Connecticut over by Hartford. They've worked with the town on a couple of other projects, and they're proposing to do a phone survey, up to 10 questions, and also to offer an open online survey. So the statistically valid survey will get 400 randomly sampled surveys completed, and the open online will be available to anyone. And that is going to take about 8 weeks to go through the whole process of coming up with the questions and conducting the survey and then doing the analysis. And then at that point, we'll go back to the council and say, okay, this is what the public has said. Based on that information, I'm expecting that the council will say, okay, it looks like there is a strong interest in having a theater, and we'll move forward with that. Or if it's clear that that people feel like the best use of that space will be for recreation, then we will continue with the work that Green Play and Prairie have done.
Mark, if the survey results come back and say people still want to have the flexible space there and they're not interested in a theater, what is there any way that the council could come back and be like, that's okay, I don't care, because we just really want a theater?
I'm not going to say no, that's not possible, because we have heard counselors say, I want a theater. So yeah, you're absolutely right. We could go through this process and still the decision could be made that that space is going to get used for a theater. Oh, and the other thing that we're doing is the Parks and Recreation Department has reached out to John Waller, who has coordinated the group of, or various groups of theater organizations that are interested in retaining the theater in the Pratt building. And we're actually going to have an on-site meeting with them to discuss their particular needs, share with them our needs, and just and try to understand where each side is coming from. And so that will help us and help them, we feel, make better decisions moving forward if we have a better understanding of each group's needs. So we're trying to arrange that in the next few weeks.
So will that,
Money this
would Mr. Waller also go to the Groton Community Center Theater as well?
Sorry, Don, what was that?
So you spoke about Mr. Waller, who is going to
Yes, yeah,
lead-
John Waller, right.
Yeah, would he also be going to the Groton Community Center's theater? The Fitch
Yes, yeah.
Theater? So
Oh,
he's gonna go to both?
well, yes, we would actually like the tour to include an on-site visit to the Pratt Building and also over to the Groton Community Center. So that
Great, that
we can
makes
look
sense.
at both
Thank you.
spaces. Yes, yeah. Fran, to answer your question, it was 13,500.
And I was also wondering, like, this is something I keep coming back to. I don't, for some reason, just from things that have happened in the past, and this has been on the table in the past as far as refurbishing the community center theater, it doesn't sound like that's on the table. So it sounds like, just to me, from what I've heard from our discussions, it sounds like it's theater or no theater, not theater in Pratt versus theater in the community center. Is that an accurate assessment, or is it still on the table even to do the theater in the community center?
I believe it's still on the table. We have at every opportunity pressed that issue. And there are a couple of counselors that have indicated that they believe that if we're going to do further studies, that we look at both spaces.
Right. The thing that was frustrating during the council meeting for me was the repeated characterization of the community center as the Fitch Middle School, because several of the speakers of arts organizations were talking about having to share a performance space with the school. And there was no way to raise my hand and say, wait a minute, it's no longer a school.
Right.
But so I agree with Dom. I think it's great if you can have John Waller and his group look at both spaces, because that may really push this issue, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think that the auditorium in the community center, there are some things that has to offer that currently aren't available at the Pratt Recreation Building.
Yeah.
And it's called space.
If they're looking
Yes.
for money. Yeah, over $13,000 is a lot of money. So I hope that the study is, whatever the outcomes are considered an outcome.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, when we completed the first recreational needs assessment, I never envisioned that we would be where we are today.
Okay, moving right along. Accreditation, I'm afraid to ask.
We are still working through all of that. The lady that was, and maybe I've already told you this, the lady that was kind of pulling everything all together took another job. We offered her, said, can you still do it part-time? She thought she could, but she can't. So we've pulled that in-house. And so we're, I won't say starting from scratch, but we're having to, she's coming up to speed with the use of the software and trying to pull, kind of jumping in halfway through somebody else's work, trying to just figure all of that out. So right now we're focusing on trying to finish, there's 10 different chapters. We're trying to focus on finishing all of the standards and evidence of compliance within 1 or 2 chapters. And then we're going to ship that off to our mentor, to have them look through it, to provide us some feedback so that we can, so we don't continue if we're not doing something correctly, or, we can continue to work towards getting that done. My expectation is that we will be submitting our application this fall, and then starting the review process. So it will be about a year from now that we are, we will be reviewed by a review team, and would find out sometime that following fall. So it would be the fall of '22 to find out if we were accredited. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but it's a huge undertaking, and we keep chipping away at it.
Mark,
All
is
right.
there anything that we can do as a commission to help expedite it or help with the process?
You guys have been a great asset already. I've fed you a bunch of stuff, and you've looked at it and, provided some great comments. There may be, additionally, there will be, I think, probably a few more things coming your way. And then probably the next opportunity for the Parks and Rec Commission would be next year when the visiting team comes. There would be an opportunity for all of you to speak with them, and I'm sure they would want to speak to you, and do a tour of some of the facilities, and just yeah. So I think right now a bulk of your work is done, but there may be a few small things that I may need to come back to you and say, can you guys review this and provide some comments and approve? But
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of helping this person who's getting up to speed. Is there like time that, I'm happy to volunteer some time to go through policies, procedures. I feel like I'm a pretty quick study with software. I imagine that it's pretty user friendly if it's something that's been released in the last decade. Reviewing policies, SOPs, and standards, I'm also comfortable with that. So
Okay.
I meant like more of the procedural piece of it, or the operational administrative piece to kind of get it moving, just because it seems like you've hit a hiccup. You couldn't have the person that was working on it work on it. And just, I know that your team is stretched. You only have a finite amount of resources.
Yeah.
But we
Well,
are one of those resources.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that. And, if things start to wind up again, it is going to be difficult for that one person to juggle processing all the registrations, particularly as we get closer to summertime. And if things start to open up, I'm expecting if we get back to somewhere near our old normal, that during the summer we kind of run flat out, and for her to be able to have the time to, uploading all of this information and making sure that everything, the links are all there and all the information is where it should be, it is going to be a real challenge. So I will talk to the staff about your offer and see if perhaps there's we can provide some training and have you jump in to lend a hand.
Okay.
All right, moving down to 0 Flanders Road site visit.
Yes, so I just got to find my notes. So the commission, as you recall, Deb Jones saying the commission needs to make a decision about the future use of that parcel. I do have a couple of updates. as you remember, when we were doing the walkthrough, we came upon, somebody's calling it an outdoor cafe. That was the area with the, sorry, I have to check my phone because the Connecticut Community Connectivity Grant is being reviewed by the RTM, and the town manager said he may be texting me questions that come up, and my phone just beeped. Yeah, he just sent me a question. Sorry about this. This is what happens when you try to do two things at once. What senior staff is doing during the close down? What does this have to do with transports? Oh my God. All right. All right, I'm going to try to text and talk at the same time. So the,
Mark, we're okay with waiting a minute while you take care of that.
are you sure?
I
Yes,
I'm
can't
really-
talk and text at the same time. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
One or
yeah, I
the other
couldn't
end of
either,
it.
Mark.
I
Pay
can't
attention
walk.
to the text.
Okay. All right.
So if I was in charge of the town, which obviously I'm not, I would sell half of that property to that guy who wants to have the storage place. And since he is a relative of the people that own the property behind them, I would ask him that this is based on having a right-of-way on their border that connects to the sheep farm. And then the third part of my plan would be that the young man who, although did a nice job, if you will, on property that wasn't his, I would keep that disc thing, and as his penalty, if you will, he has to upkeep it, cut branches, keep it up, do whatever, as a town rec resource, and he's the guy who's got to keep it up as far as his penalty for going on and cutting trees, etc. So that's what I think. Because no matter what, he did something that he should not have done. I mean, it was nice to see all those people out in support of him, but it was town property. He didn't cut down 7 trees. He probably cut down 70 or 80 trees to make that little golf course that he made and is running. So
You're way kinder than I would have been, Dom.
I know that I was waiting for you to jump in, Angela.
I'm like, I feel like it should be a bit more punitive because basically you're giving him what he wants, which is to keep it. I mean, he's going to upkeep it anyways because
Right.
the play on it. So, I don't know. I feel like the town shouldn't be forced into accepting something like that and have to deal with, I mean, we already have a disc golf course that we've been forced to take because somebody built it. And so now we maintain it. And that's time, money, and manpower, right? That is spent maintaining that golf course that was created just on somebody's individual whim without following the proper channels. So I don't think it's fair to burden taxpayers with that.
Well, would we consider doing I know we do needs assessments for lots of things, but if it's generally thought that that's something that people want in the town, you know, but we wouldn't know that unless we did some kind of assessment to get the general feel of what people would foresee doing with it. And I'm curious, I wasn't at the visit, but what made you say that you thought it would be good to sell half the property for the storage?
There is an interested buyer who's a relative of, what's the property, Mark, that
It's a
borders?
Holstein property.
So it's a relative that wants to put up a storage facility? So they do have a
Yes.
buyer there for it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not the question that the commission is charged with answering.
Okay,
They need to answer if this space is suitable for open space, or if they feel the property should be sold. I do want to share with you as you recall, there was, I think, 3 different groups that need to weigh in on what happens to this property. One was the Conservation Commission, Parks and Recreation Commission, and then the third was the Economic
EDC.
Development, EDC, right, Angela?
Yeah, the
Yes.
EDC.
Yeah, Economic Development Commission or Committee, I'm not sure which that is.
It's a commission.
Commission, okay. So I'm not aware that the EDC has made any recommendation. That Conservation Commission has, and I'm just going to read to you what they have, what they sent. A review of the 2016 Plan of Conservation Development shows this property comprises a linkage between the central and eastern green belts. Specifically, this parcel provides an east-west corridor from the Pendleton Farm open space to the state's I-95 open space and under highway culvert, allowing access to the town's transfer station and Candlewood Hill Wildlife Management Area. So their recommendation is that the town retain this space for open space.
And
Oh,
Mark, I
and-
can give you an update. The EDC, I think, voted to recommend selling it because it's economically viable.
Okay.
And I'm going to speak for the neighborhood because I know so many of those folks. Part of the problem for that section of Flanders Road is the zoning. It's zoned, I think, light industrial, if I'm not mistaken, even though there has been an increase in home building on that section of Flanders Road. At Pendleton Farms, Mystic Way, as well as the existing residents on Flanders Road. Having a commercial operation move into that space, I think would be detrimental to the neighborhood.
And I started to tell you before I got into texting that open cafe area that we thought was on town property, you know, they had the chairs and I think there was a fireplace or a fire pit and there was a small bar. That actually is not on town property. We had the surveyor, the town surveyor go out just to confirm where the property bound was. And as you recall, we walked through a stone wall before we got to that open space, and the stone wall is pretty much the property line between the town and the private property.
So really all anyone's looking for from us is a recommendation to retain it as open space or to sell it, yes?
That is correct, yes. And we have no input on how it gets used, if it's, you know, and the fact that it's going to get used for storage or for a strip mall or whatever, that is not part of the decision. It's just whether we prefer to keep it, see that retained as open space, or if that would be sold for commercial use.
Being my inclination after what I saw of it and hearing about your experience would be, it's not like this is a permanent decision, I'm guessing, that where if we decide to keep it, the town's stuck keeping it forever, depending on what we want to do with it. But I would say right now, it seems like it's got some pretty viable uses for open space as far as parks and rec use. So that's just my impression from what I read in your report and saw when I looked and heard from what your experience was. But you guys can tell me if you disagree.
No, I agree, Fran. I definitely feel like we should retain it for open space or maybe a future park.
I agree.
Okay, then I think I'm hearing a consensus, I believe. So we would need a recommendation from the Parks and Rec Commission for the use of that space that we can.
So I'd like to make a
share.
motion to use 0 Flanders Road property as parcel as open space.
I second that.
Is that what, so moved? Mark, is that what you needed?
Yeah, I think that is fine.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, moving right along. Bicycle pump track proposal.
Sorry,
Yes.
Angela
Oops.
seconded that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Brian Kent, who has been patiently waiting since this meeting started.
Oh,
Hey,
dear.
Brian. Well, he's a landscape architect. He probably spends 4 nights a week making presentations to different groups. So Brian is one of the principals at Kent and Frost, which is a landscaping company right here in Mystic. Have done some great projects with them in the past. And I do, while I have this opportunity, Brian was instrumental in providing assistance when I was working on the Connecticut Community Connectivity Grant. He provided a lot of great information, and I feel that we probably would not have been awarded the grant if it weren't for the information that Brian provided to us. So thank you
Well,
again.
thank
I
you,
know I've
Brian.
already thanked you once, Brian, but I wanted to thank you in front of the commission. So, and I truly feel that way. So thank you. So
I appreciate
one of-
that. You're welcome.
one of Brian's other hats is he is the president of Bike Groton, which is a bicycle advocacy group. Brian is a big biker himself. He prefers to ride on the snow up in Vermont versus the roads around here in Mystic. So Brian and Bike Groton approached me probably a month ago about the idea of a bicycle pump track on the parcel that they have kind of identified at the end of Depot Road, right by the entrance to the state park. So I think I've shared with everybody the presentation that Brian is going to run through tonight. And Brian, this is the first time I've done this, but I need to share my screen. And I've actually never done this before. So you may have to kind of hold my hand as I do this. How do I?
Okay. So
I'm looking at a screen now that says desktop 1 whiteboard. It's got all kinds of options. Or do
why don't
just
I
go over-
try? I have a share screen button on my window.
Oh, yeah.
Let me see if
Okay, let
I
me try
can.
that.
Let me see if I can just click it and get us to my presentation. That might be easier. So let's see what happens.
Mark
So-
will have to give you permission.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Does that work?
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. Whoops.
Yeah,
Okay, great. So let me first ask, has everyone seen this presentation in their email? Did you receive this?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I don't have to explain every detail. Let me start by just giving you a little bit more background than what you just got from Mark, and that is that so Bike Groton has only been around for a year. So we transitioned from Mystic Community Bikes, and you may have heard about Mystic, or you might be familiar with Mystic Community Bikes because it was around for over 10 years. It was the first bike share organization or bike share system in the state of Connecticut. It started in 2008, and I was a member of the board back then, and then I went off for a few years. And they had the green bikes that were located down at Mystic Bank Square Books and at the Nature Center and at the different hotels and the marinas and so forth. And they got out of the business of bike sharing a couple of years ago when a person that took one of the bikes crashed and then sued them. And so that put an end to it, believe me. Now the insurance that they had, thank goodness, covered it, and it was a reasonable settlement, and that's all done and behind them now. But they for over a year didn't know what to do, and then I kind of got back involved, and I persuaded the members of the board that were still active to reconstitute, along with some other folks who had a similar interest, as an advocacy organization. Now we advocate for bicycle users and pedestrians. We're not just there to improve bicycle conditions, but we are for bikes and pedestrians, since we all kind of share so much of the same scarce real estate. We want to be sure that there's equity and there's fairness. And really what we emphasize is safety and convenience, and convincing the stakeholders and the people that lead the different communities, particularly Groton, that this is a really important and worthwhile way to look at our transportation system, our roadways, and our trails. And one way to introduce people to the benefits of bicycling is to give them activities that are fun and that are inexpensive or free and appeal to a variety of ages, particularly kids who are in the adolescent, teenage age groups, who in the last year particularly have just been bored out of their minds, and haven't had that much to do. We came up with this idea of promoting and hopefully raising enough money to build what's known as a pump track. And pump tracks aren't well known. There's only one other pump track in the state of Connecticut that we know of. It's in Madison, Connecticut, and it's part of a large mountain bike park down there called Rockland that's on town property that is actually known all over New England. The Rockland Bike Park has a reputation. When I go up to Northeast Kingdom, Vermont, the Kingdom Trails up there, those folks have heard of Rockland. That's the only place in Connecticut they've heard of. But it's on the map. Now, if you ask skateboarders, where's a great place to skateboard, they'd probably say the skate park in Groton. It's on the map for that particular, user group. But what we know from looking at pump tracks around the country and around the world, they are fantastic, low cost, low maintenance public facilities. Kids, adults, all types of people, once they understand and figure out how to use them, just flock to them. They're family friendly, and we think this is a terrific site for this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through it briefly, and then I'm going to show you about a 1-minute video that I've got queued up here on how you do it. Because my guess is you guys probably haven't ridden on a pump track, and I may be one of the few people in this town that has. So we went through a fairly systematic site selection process, which is what we do. We look for property that was centrally located, you know, that had access to roads and trails, that was near an already established bicycle magnet. And that is, of course, Bluff Point, Haley Farm State Park. Lots of people go there to mountain bike. And we found this site, this park in at the end of, or the south end of Depot Road. Now, what this location has going for it, let me advance here, if it will let me. There we go. Is not only is it locally convenient, and it also has a regional significance in that, besides being on a number of trails and routes that I'll identify here in a second, it's also on what has been proposed as the Eastern Shoreline Path, the regional bicycle and pedestrian plan that was done a couple of years ago by the Council of Governments that I also worked on, recommended this. This is a bicycle touring route. It could potentially go all the way to New Haven, as you see on the left of your screen, and thus could be designated a US Bike Route 1A. Now, everybody's familiar with the Road 1As, like the 1A through Stonington, but there's also a 1 and a 1A route system for bicycles. Now, there's lots of other designated routes around the country. There's another one in Connecticut down on the west end of the state that goes north-south. It's Route 7. It goes all the way to Burlington, Vermont. And it's all on road, and it's really appeals to the folks that get out there and do multi-day tours, that ride long distances, spend the night in hotels or B&Bs, or even camp along the way. And that's what bicycle tourism is, and that's what I've been promoting in my other role, which is vice chair of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board for the state of Connecticut. We meet once a month with DOT and promote and talk to DOT about their bike and pedestrian program. So that's one more important feature. Now, as far as the close-in Groton community context, you can see in orange, this is the route of the Eastern Shoreline Path. It may or may not go along the Pequannock Boardwalk over there because that's such a narrow route. It may end up going up Depot Road and then down Route 1 if Route 1 can accommodate it. But you can see that it's also the GNS Trolley Trail, and the Trolley Trail extension is the name of the community connectivity grant that Mark just mentioned, and its route is shown in green. And part of its trail, like the little connection from the end of the street there, I forget the name of that court, over to Industrial Drive.
Knoxville Court.
Knoxville Court, right, thanks.
Yeah.
And then it's on street with signs and stencils on the roadway. And then at Sutton Park, it becomes a full paved multi-use trail. So this would be a new pathway through the park to connect to the one that runs parallel to Route 1, and it creates this loop. So this makes a lot of benefit for the neighborhood because folks there can safely ride their bikes now or walk through the park to get to these different destinations like Pequannock Plains and Sutton Park and the library and the community center. So this is why we felt like this is a great site for something like this. And I think I've covered all the points that are on the slide, so I'll move on.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Sure.
are other people still just seeing the large map?
Yes.
Okay, I think I'm looking at the presentation we were sent, and I see.
Oh, shoot.
It looks
Okay.
like there was a loop, but we're still looking at the large picture.
Okay, so
Well, I'm glad
something's
you
wrong with the screen share. Okay, let me, let's see, let me go back. Let me change it. Sorry about that.
Right, I'm
Sorry, I
glad
just
you said
went- I
that. I
just
thought
went
it was
to
just
open
me.
Yeah, I just went and opened the other one. And I was like, I don't think
You know,
it's over 86?
Yeah, let's see. I've got two monitors going on here, and let's see. I'm looking for a way. Oh, here we go. All right, so I'm gonna do a new share. I'm gonna go to this one, and okay. So are you seeing the Eastern Shoreline Path map now?
No.
No,
No.
We're still on the first slide.
yeah,
All
still
right,
on
so
the,
I'm gonna stop that. I'm gonna go back and start over. Hopefully this will do it here. 2, 1, there. How about now?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, great. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is the Eastern Shoreline Path. The site's here in the center. This is the context that I was just talking about. Let me get it.
Mhm.
There we go. Okay, so GNS Trolley Trail, orange, also the Eastern Shoreline Path, the US Bike Route 1A, we hope. There's your site. The green loop is the community connectivity bikeway route. And then there's also the proposed Tri-Town Trail heading north on its way to Preston. Bluff Point's down there. You guys know this area. Now we're on the site. And what it has currently is a parking area for at least 10 cars. It has a playground. It has a pathway that goes around the perimeter and another pathway meeting up at the beginning of the boardwalk. And within that is a central open grass area that has no programmed use. That is where we've identified the site for the pump track. And what that looks like from the road is back behind the playground. You can just see it's just an open field area. This is what the pump track would look like. This is one of several potential layouts, but you can see in terms of its size, you know, it occupies maybe 50% of that area. It could be moved around a little bit. It's really just adding soil to the existing grade. You're just building up to create these features that the bike riders ride on. And then where you've got these low areas that are kind of contained, we would need to have some drainage. We would do some rain gardens so that as much of the water as possible be absorbed. And then we would have some overflow pipe that may have to go out towards the Quantic River to drain it off if we get a lot of rain there. We might also want to put a fence around it just to keep dogs out or just so that people who are riding around in here don't have to dodge somebody that's walking through or whatever, because you can get up to fairly high rate of speed. We're above flood elevation. You see, I put that note on there. 12.5 is out of the floodplain. We have some permitting, of course, with the town site plan review process. And then because we're adjacent to the coastline, it would be reviewed by DEEP, which is a CAM review, a Coastal Area Management Act review. They make a recommendation to the town then decides whether they want to follow the recommendation. You may have been exposed to this before on other projects, but this is a fairly simple and non-controversial kind of project. So this is a close-up of what it looks like. If you were going to ride here, you would start up here where it says staging area in the top right, and then you would drop in. You're only maybe 4 feet high here above ground. This has room for maybe half a dozen people to wait their turns. And then you just ride through here and you can just kind of choose your route. And the great thing about these is you don't pedal in a pump track. You use your body's up and down motion and the way you position the bike to accelerate. And you can basically go around and around and around forever. It's like a perpetual motion track, and it will wear you out. It's just a terrific full body exercise, and it's just thrilling to do this and to get the hang of it, because it's not something that most people have ever experienced. Being able to propel themselves on a bicycle without having to pedal, it's really mind-blowing. So this is what they look like. You see the successive humps are the rollers, and that's where you pick up speed through pushing and pulling on the bike. And then the berms are the 180-degree turns that are very tight, where you really feel the push of gravity and centrifugal force. They're low maintenance. You can see from these photographs where they've just planted turf. And really, turf maintenance is about the only thing that has to be done. They do need to be tuned up if they get a lot of use. Since they're dirt, they may have to be tuned up with some shovels and some soil periodically, but it's not something that really gets worn out by use. All right, so what I want to do, if I can get this to work, let me try this again, is just a really quick. Now, do you see a screen for a video?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's see if the volume on this works. Tell me if you're hearing volume.
All right, pumping is the essence of the pump track.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
heard him? Okay, here we go. All right, turn up your volume.
This is where it all comes together. As we look at our roller feature here, and we think about approaching it, we're going to approach it in our good body position. Once our front wheel hits the face of the roller, we're going to start to unweight that front wheel by pulling up like we do in the front wheel lift. As we go over the section of the roller, we're going to begin to push that front wheel down so it maintains contact with the back side of the roller. Simultaneously, we're unweighting the back end of our bike. Once the back wheel gets to the back side of the roller, we're going to push down with our pedals to propel us out of this roller and accelerate. What will happen is, this hand is my bike, this is the upper part of my body. My upper body is going to stay smooth and level like this, while my bike does this. All right, now that we've learned about pumping, let's get out there and roll through the track without pedaling.
Okay. And then, so kids just go crazy on these, and they tend to be very popular after school and on weekends. And guys like that guy that did the presentation and this guy here, they have to wait until it's not so crowded so that they can get out and do what they do. So you'll see these folks that are more mature and experienced show up when the kids are in school, and they ride them like this. So you can see it's a little bit of acrobatics, it's aerobics, and it's fun. So that's the presentation. What I'm going to just go through quickly now to finish it is the schedule that we're on. So we had our February meeting of Bike Groton last night, which was also our annual meeting where we re-elected the officers. I'm president. Everybody's a resident. We have Mike Linares, we have Jim Burke, we have Bob Moore, and then a couple of other people on the board. And tonight we're presenting to you. We've submitted a letter of interest for a grant to People for Bikes, which is a nonprofit organization, a national organization that has a program that it grants small amounts, up to $10,000 twice a year to projects and programs. And we've submitted a letter of interest. we'll find out a little bit later whether we've been shortlisted for the grant. But on March 2nd, I'll be making a presentation to town council, basically the same presentation as this, requesting their support. By then, we'll have found out by February 26th whether we have been shortlisted for the grant. And if so, then we'll be submitting for their grant application, which is in the full grant application, which is in April. But whether or not we get the grant, we're still going to really get into outreach with a newspaper article, an open house on Zoom, Facebook, direct outreach, etc. If things go well at that point, we'll be submitting a site plan application to the planning department, which will take care of issues like the grading and the drainage and the sediment and erosion control. And then that will also go to DEEP for the CAM review. And once we kind of have our ducks in a row, if everything is going according to plan, we'll kick off a concerted fundraising campaign. So we're going to wait until we're pretty sure that we have our approvals and support, and then we'll go to the public for a fundraising campaign. Now, if that works out and we estimate that this will cost between $35,000 and $45,000 for full construction, then we could conceivably bid it and have it constructed this year. But it may more realistically take us into next year to get all of this done. We have reached out just through word of mouth and through some of the local bike groups and have gotten just really positive feedback and a lot of support for this. And we know that because we're on the edge of a dense neighborhood with a lot of families, that this would be a well-utilized facility. So now I'll take any of your questions or comments. Thanks for the time tonight.
So Brian, the site, that's a town property?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and what added liability would a project such as this mean to the town, one? And two, do kids, is this a free activity? Do kids pay to do this?
Completely free, completely free.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And Don,
So
to
would
answer
there
your
be,
question.
would there be additional insurances that, in terms of liability, that the town would need to have?
Dom, no. I checked into that, and this is something that the town would be covered under the town's current policy.
Brian,
Well, it looks like a pretty exciting thing.
I was thinking it looks like great fun. My question is, how do the young riders learn how to use the pump bike trail?
By just getting on it and doing it and emulating what the older kids are doing. It actually becomes a instinctive skill. Once it takes about 5 minutes to figure it out. And when I found those two videos I showed you, I was looking through all the YouTube videos on pump tracks, you know, how to pump track. I was trying to find the 1 minute videos. So I was looking at all these videos, and lots of them are showing little kids that have just learned how to ride bikes that are riding on these, and they're just doing great. And you know, if they fall over, it's soft, so they're not skidding their knees too badly or any of those sorts of things. And everybody is wearing a helmet. You know, that's required. You can't have a hall monitor there telling everybody to wear helmets, but I think it's become so common now for people to wear helmets when they ride bikes. You'll find that it'll be just conventional, but in communities where pump tracks have really become well known, they're actually paving these in asphalt. And because you can then ride a skateboard or a push scooter, and you can, and then there's even less maintenance once you do that. They just become permanent. And then those are for places where it just becomes so popular that you just need something that's more durable. So, you know, in 10 years from now, the town may say, this is just going gangbusters. Let's get a grant to pave it. And then we can just, we won't have to do any maintenance whatsoever. And it'll be even more utilized. So I would encourage you to just go online and look at pump tracks, and you will be enlightened. There's one in particular down in New York City in the Brooklyn Bridge Park that's a couple of years old. It's combined with a community garden, and it has a pavilion and a playground. It's just a real magnet for activity. It's 3 or 4 times the size of this one. And they have events there, and professionals come and ride, and it's quite the facility. So you'll see everything from pump tracks in people's backyards that they build themselves to these kind of public facilities. And they're really, for an inexpensive, family-oriented recreational resource, they're really fantastic.
Thanks.
So I just want to make sure I understand. So it sounds like you're getting grants to pay for the making of it. Is that accurate?
Well, we've applied for a grant initially that has a maximum of $10,000. So that's not going to pay for the entire track. But we're going to kick off a fundraising campaign. So we're gonna crowdsource, and we're going to reach out to corporate and commercial entities in and around the community and raise the money. So it's going to be a private fundraising campaign, and we'll apply for every grant that we can identify. There are others. It's just right now, the only one we've found that's open is the People for Bikes program.
Okay, and once, thank you for clarifying that. And once it's initially built, is it going to transfer to the town for the maintenance and upkeep, or is that something that you're going to continue to do with your organization?
Well, I don't think our organization has the capacity to do very much maintenance. We certainly can't do the grass mowing, which is something that the town already takes care of. But we can, we can certainly help with the maintaining the track itself if it requires some tuning up, some compacting or smoothing out, with rakes and shovels and that sort of thing. We can certainly have work days to help the town staff take care of it. But the general maintenance, which would be, I think, rolled into, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but it would be just rolled into the town's customary maintenance of the area.
Yes, I think that's exactly what would happen. I'd see a little less mowing and probably a little bit more weed whacking, but that would be about it, I think. As far as the track maintenance, I would think that this would be kind of a community-driven maintenance, and if built correctly, I wouldn't expect that there would be a great deal of maintenance involved in something like this, as far as the maintenance of the track itself.
And the plan is to make it dirt right now, mostly?
Yeah, so these are most typically made from dirt. And the way this would be built is we would design it and calculate the quantity of soil and we would have a drawing like this that would specify the elevation of every feature and its dimension and that sort of thing. And then we would put it out to bid to companies. We could probably find a local company that could be a competitive bidder, but there are some companies, believe it or not, that specialize in these kinds of bike park facilities. And so we might be lucky enough to find someone that has already built one, like for example, the one in Madison already understands how to go about it. And they would just be bringing in soil and then moving it and sculpting the features. And then, with the drainage done first and the finishing landscaping and perhaps the fencing, it's probably a 2-month construction duration. And then it could be open to the public. So it's entirely possible that it would be built in this, the 2021 summer fall season if we can raise enough money this year early in the, enough in the spring, early summer.
Well, it seems like a really great thing, Brian. Good luck with it, with the endeavor. And that's it. It looks like a great thing for our kids, that's for sure.
Yeah, Dom,
Thank
I
you.
don't know
Now,
if you'd want to make a motion, if the commission felt comfortable, saying that they supported, the concept of the development of a pump track. And because like Brian said, his next step is March 2nd, going to the council to make a presentation, trying to get their support. And I think, again, if the commission felt comfortable, supporting this, that would certainly benefit Brian in his presentation and hopefully getting the council on board with this.
Well, how do the other commissioners feel?
Does this have to be decided upon now? Because I'm curious to hear how these tracks hold up. It's hard for me to think that something that's made of dirt with people riding by. I mean, I see what happens with the trails when it rains and it gets muddy and people ride on them and they get all kinds of rutted and everything. And I worry, I guess, about upkeep. So I'm curious to maybe see how they hold up in other facilities, because I'm worried about the upkeep and things becoming dangerous if it's not maintained properly.
I did a little bit of research there. Like I said, there aren't too many local trails, but I talked to the people in Madison about theirs, and they built theirs in a wooded area. So there are trees inside of the track, and they've had to deal with limbs and there was a windstorm and that has been an expense for them. But otherwise, and they wish they hadn't built it in among the trees. Of course, aesthetically and their shade and everything is wonderful, but it also has caused them a little bit of issue. But here we have none of that. And the recipe for the soil is specific. It's not just dirt from Whittles. It's a mixture of soil and sand. And so it compacts very hard and it drains very well. And it's also designed so that water's not pooling in anywhere, in any location. And if it's fenced, we can post a sign that says, don't use when raining and that sort of thing. And it's not going to prevent everybody, and most people don't like to ride on trails in the rain. There are those hardcore nuts that do, but there's always going to be some maintenance on something like this, but I don't think it's going to be anything like what you see on some of the heavily used trails like Bluff Point, Haley Farm, where you've got sections that don't have good drainage, and that's where the problems occur.
At the risk of having a lengthy conversation, which I don't want to because it's already almost 9 o'clock. Sorry, guys. I've had a very long day and I don't feel very well. So, Mark, how do you feel about adding this to the portfolio of properties that you currently care for? Is this something that you can foresee your team having the capacity and resources to maintain?
I think so. You know, I think the success of this starts with the basic design, and you know, I think Brian hit on that. Is that, you know, the soil is a certain mixture, and if you get somebody that knows how to build them and it's built properly, then like anything else, is something that isn't built properly, you know, you end up spending a lot more time making repairs on it. So it would, you know, as we put out the RFP for the design, I mean, we would have to make sure that we identified, you know, the soil type and exactly, and specified exactly how it was to be built. And I think as long as those standards were met, you know, this is something that we could probably absorb.
All right, well, in that case,
Yeah, you know, what interests me about this is I think that it reaches a target group that perhaps are underserved in the community, that, you know, are choosing to do other things that may not be provided through the Parks and Recreation Department. You know, it certainly encourages physical activity, which we're all about. And so I think it would be a great addition to the town. And the fact that, you know, Brian and his group are proposing to, you know, do this fundraise to pay for the project. And I think that the biking community, you know, my experience in working with the Southeast Connecticut Mountain Bike Association is they put a lot into the biking resources, and they frequently have days where they'll come out and rework a section of trail. And I would expect that we would get that same kind of response in the care of this. You know, if we had to do a rework on a section or something, that if we put out there, you know, a work day, that we would get a strong contingent of folks that would come out and provide assistance.
all right, well then, based on that and your confidence, because I am confident that you know how to I feel like you have a record of managing your resources responsibly. You have a clear understanding of your capacity and your team's capacity. And for that reason, because I trust in you as the expert, I make a motion that we support this and let the council know that we've given our support for it.
And I would second that motion. I think it's a very exciting project. I think it looks like great fun.
So moved. Thank you, Brian, very much, and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for your service to the town.
All right. Apparently our next meeting is March 10th. And I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Excuse me.
Unless there's something else.
There is. The draft letter that I circulated this afternoon. Do we want to take action on that?
First, Elizabeth, thank you for doing that. It looks really good. I think we just have to update. There's you have it highlighted for a specific stat, right? We just need to fill that in.
Yes, I just wanted to know what the acreage was.
I got you another appointment for Friday.
Mark, would you be able to fill in that number for Elizabeth?
This is the acreage at the Mystic Ed Center.
Well, it's the conservation area that's adjacent to the education center that in the Restler presentation, they talked about connecting trails to that space as well.
So that's the parcel that's owned by Connecticut Deep.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I can certainly, I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but I can certainly find that out.
And then we should say instead it's the deep conservation area. Okay. All right. And then the other question was, does it go out over your signature or Dom's?
I think it would probably go from Dom. I actually didn't have a chance to read the letter this afternoon. I was working on a few other things.
Yeah, I can't imagine what.
Yeah, I didn't read it either.
Okay, I only sent it out this afternoon, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, so I guess maybe I could better answer that question after I've read it, but I would think that it would come
Yeah.
from, it would come from the commission, and that would be Dom as the chair.
Okay.
So are we tabling that until everybody has a chance to read it?
I think that's a good idea.
I think we'll have to.
Can we just
Okay.
do it by email?
Sure, I think that's fine with me. I can plug in that number once I've read it and done a little research.
Well, in that case, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. I'll second that motion.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I'll try to make the next meeting shorter. Angela, I hope you feel better.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night, everyone.